Hey everybody, welcome to Wow. And wow, it is a beautiful sunny day, still a little chilly, not the not the weather I'm waiting on. But thank you so much for chiming in today and being a part of the ministry through these Wow programs. And I've said this multiplicities of times, but thank you so much for watching and sharing these videos around. It is of utmost importance, especially in this society. You know, years ago, we used to think you just had to get people to a church building to get them saved and get them all this, and I'm taking nothing from that. I believe in a community of believers. I believe when a community of believers is strong, it helps the community around them. I take nothing from that, but the reality is we live in a society that is on the go. There's a lot of things going on. I've said it so many times, but I believe there are more believers that do not go to a building than do go to a building. Again, I'm taking nothing away from the fellowship of the saints, forsaking not that, the apostle said, but that's not just to a building. That's in mindset, that's in action, that's in the deeds of, again, helping the community. But this ministry also reaches a lot of people that do not go to church. And that's what these WOW programs hopefully is doing, along with those that are full-fledged members of a church body. Awesome. But for those that are not, I hope this is helping you. And so I certainly appreciate you getting the word out. I'm seeing you guys chime in, and I do appreciate it. I want to share something with you very briefly. I try to be as brief as possible. But I had a thought, and we've all experienced it. If you've lived long enough, you have experienced what you perceived as a defeat or a failure. And I want to show you today through the scripture, through psychology, of there is victory even in failures. A lot of people see failure as, well, I just will never get that, or I'll never have that. I wanted that, I didn't get it. And many people today, they've just turned their back on even hoping for more. And most really consider not getting what you want as defeat. So if that was the definition of defeat, then we've all suffered defeat. There's been things in my life I wanted at that time, but years later you look back and say, yeah, I didn't really need it. But really, most do. They consider not getting what they want as defeat, and sadly they take that mentality and run with it. They absolutely run with it, and it's a sad thing. I've got to make sure my volume is up here. Okay. The Apostle Paul, he reminds us in this, and I'm paraphrasing it, but in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Well, God is good all the time. That translation can be refined a little bit, but he works together, all things work together for good to those that keep the mind of Christ. There's a good translation. And so God really, and I believe this, totally up to you, but I believe God instills in us a purpose in every one of us before we were ever born. He said in Jeremiah 1:5, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. And we've said, when things go wrong in life, how many times have we said this? Well, that's just life. When things go up and down, it's like a roller coaster. See, we really, and hopefully after today, this will be your new statement. Instead of when something goes wrong in your everyday life, instead of saying, well, that's just life, you say, hey, I'm on an adventure. But see, when you consider how we should look at a potential loss or defeat in the light of what it really is, the impact is not only lessened, but it actually starts a point of hope. When has the last time happened? Now you think about this, and this was the thought I had. When is the last time that a defeat or a failure, perceived failure in your life, actually started a brand new point of hope and excitement? Can you imagine that? Instead of saying, oh God, I lost. I wanted that. I didn't get it. You get excited and say, wow, what's next? What's next? Because if you think of loss and failure as a defeatist mentality, here you go. And this may be describing some of you, but you'll feel depressed, you'll feel angry, you easily get frustrated, and then you start self-evaluating. Well, what do you mean, Mark? Self-evaluating. Well, I should have done this, I could have done this. Oh, if I could redo that. Well, we've all got a redo list, but there are some things you can't redo. It's an adventure. Most people don't enjoy the journey. They're too afraid of the falls. And so, you know, when you see your loss or failure or what you think was a defeat as a seed planted, you begin to get excited for a brand new harvest. Listen, there is no failure except in giving up. How many people today have just given up? Of course, you know, I deal with a lot of these. People commit suicide. They just gave up. They just gave up. You know, and I began to look at some different stories because I love to study successful people. But what I really love to study is what they had to journey through to get there. And I saw some really, really neat things I wanted to share with you quickly. Do you realize, and some of you own this product, but the Dyson vacuum cleaner, do you realize that James Dyson had 5,126 failures of those prototypes over the course of 15 years? Now, some people give up on something in a week. Some people give up on something in a day. Some people, it may take them several months or even a year. 15 years, over 5,000 attempts to get something right, but he eventually created this bagless vacuum cleaner that led to a net of $4.5 billion. See, there is no failure except in giving up. You look, and many of you have watched his movies. But Steven Spielberg, no, most people know who he is. Super wealthy. He was dyslexic. He was rejected by the University of Southern California for their School of Cinematic Arts. They didn't want him. He could have said, well, maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do. Who are you letting, and somebody's needing to hear this, who are you letting kill your dreams? Who are you letting kill your dreams? Steven Spielberg is a great example. You look at Michael Jordan. He didn't make the cut for his high school basketball team. And look where he went. Because he didn't accept failure as a defeatist. He accepted failure as a fuel to just catapult him to the next level. And I've never watched these movies, but the movies, Harry Potter, the author of those books, Miss Rowling. Do you realize when she was writing these books, she was broke? She even says, her testimony is, she was depressed. She had been divorced. She was a single mom. And she's writing this novel. And so many publishers told her, no, it's not good. Her statement I really enjoyed, and it was inspiring. She said, it's impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not lived at all. I would ask you today, are you living so cautiously you don't even enjoy the journey? Abraham Lincoln. I love Abe Lincoln. He said, my greatest concern is not whether you failed, but whether you are content with your failure. See, all of these people had goals, and people came against them. But that failure was actually fuel for them. Look at Jesus Christ. His goal was to redeem mankind, to think righteous and stand pure before the Father. But he was rejected by his own. See, the Apostle Paul said, now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly, above all we could ask or even think. According to the power that works in us. Now, if you are a novelist at reading the Bible, you would think the power means, well, it's that Holy Ghost power in us. Well, that's part of it. But the power, according to the power, he is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Do you realize all things work together for good according to the power, not only of God, but the power that works in us? What do you mean, Mark, the power that works in us? The power that works in you and in me is our drive and our determination. Drive and determination. You ought to get up every morning and say, today I'm driven, today I'm determined. But you can't do that unless you have a goal. How many goals have you put on a shelf because it didn't work out the first attempt? Go talk to James Dyson. 5,126 attempts. Go talk to Thomas Edison. Go talk to people who went through failure but used it to just fuel their drive. And I speak on you a new life. Yes, you may have lost your job. Yes, you may have been through a divorce. Yes, your family may have turned their back on you. Yes, things didn't go the way you wanted it or thought it was going to go. But your life doesn't end up by what has been done to you. Your life ends up where your drive and determination takes you. Okay? God has a great plan and a great purpose for every one of us, but only the power that works in us is going to get you to where you're supposed to be. You know, you look in the Bible that people that handled loss and failure. Look at David. Good Lord. He slept with another man's wife. They had a child. He could have said, well, my days of being anointed and being king are over. No, he used it as fuel. He was determined. You look how Paul handled it. Paul could have looked back and said, my God, I incarcerated Christians. I saw that their death sentence was implemented and carried out. He didn't let it stop him. You look how Peter handled it. For crying out loud, the guy denied that he even knew Jesus, but he ended up being a lead apostle that has brought us the gospel even today, that we live by and understand the works of Christ by. These are people that didn't give up. You look at what Judas didn't do. Judas is the example of someone that let failure dictate their destiny. How long are you going to blame the devil for what you're doing to yourself? I'll ask you that again. Because in the religious atmosphere, everything bad is the devil's fault. If I didn't get that, it was the devil. Do you maybe realize not everything bad is evil? Not everything bad is the devil's fault. A lot of times, most times, it has to do with our drive and our determination. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. What? Your drive and your determination. So we must begin to see failure and loss, the dashing of dreams, as just a seed. You know, traveling in the ministry, this July will mark 32 years of full-time ministry for me. And many years before that of just part-time ministry. I would work jobs and go minister wherever I could. And so I have been self-employed for 32 years. Through sickness, through a lot of things. And being self-employed, and if you're self-employed, you know what I'm talking about. Being self-employed, you know, if I were to have a meeting cancel, that's like the boss calling you up right before you come and say, you know what, Mark, we're not going to need you this week. Okay, that's fine. Well, it's not really fine, because it's like, okay, I've got these obligations. What do I do now? And then you start feeling the loss. You know how I've lived for probably 25 to 27 years, because it took me some time to figure this out. Because I'll be honest with you, and I'm old enough to just be straight up, and you make up your own mind. I don't care. Man, I would get stressed out. There were times I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. It's like, my God, Lord, you know what I'm facing, and I'd start, devil, you're a liar. Devil didn't have nothing to do with it. And I used to be one of, well, that's just life. No, it's a journey, because I began to see anything that I considered a loss, I started considering it a seed. How many times have I walked into a church? How many would like to have a job where you do the work, but you never know what you're getting paid till the end? Welcome to my world. I'm not complaining about it. I love it, because if what I receive for the ministry that was done that week did not meet the needs, I don't complain to a pastor. I don't complain about the people. I don't, and I'm being very straight up honest with you, I don't complain. I have left many a building and conference halls and just said, you know what, Lord, I'll just call it a seed. Okay? And so if you truly believe in seed time and harvest, you'll consider a perceived loss or defeat as a seed to your future. A seed dies. What's that mean? Let that loss die. Stop worrying about it. Stop fretting about it. Well, if I'd have done this, I wouldn't be divorced. Stop worrying about it. Well, if I'd have done this, I wouldn't have lost my job. Learn from it, but stop worrying about it. See, as long as you're worried about the loss and still grieving the loss, you haven't let the seed die. But once it does die, Jesus said the seed really never does die. It just comes back in a greater form. You could, and I've said this many times, you could go outside your home, outside your office, see a tree, and dig up that tree, and you'll think, okay, I'm going to find that seed. That seed is dead, but it's not really dead. It's now a tree. See, you thought you lost your last job. Don't go looking for it again. There's a better job that's coming. So the seed never dies. Okay? The seed never dies. Stop mourning a loss and start seeing it as a seed planted. And then you'll get excited about, thank you, Lord. Can you imagine thanking God for things that you didn't get? That's the joy of a believer. And so, to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or even think, according to the power that works in us, is the power of drive and determination by the Spirit, mental disposition working in you. What power works in you? That's the self-evaluation you ought to do today. Don't put it off. Do it today. You ask yourself, how determined am I? I challenge you, listen to this again if you have to, but start asking yourself, how determined am I? Well, how do I know how determined I am? Well, if you're not determined, you find yourself living in your past, the could-haves, the should-haves. I wish I had have, I would have. You find yourself doing that, so your drive is in the wrong direction. If you're constantly pessimistic about things, the power is not working in you. So you can't go around saying, well, all things work together for good. It's not going to work together for good. And believe me, not all things work together for the good you want. It works together for His good, okay? Because what is His good? Well, God will have His way. His way is seeing you blessed and highly favored, okay? And so no matter what age, no matter what you've been through in life, it is time to start getting determined, okay? Well, Mark, how do I know if I'm not determined? You don't enjoy anything you do. You have to go to work. You have to do this. You have to do that. God help us get our want to back. You get your want to back when you see what you've lost as a seed and not as a death to a dream. Well, how do I know if I'm driven? What do you mean driven, Mark? Self-motivated. How self-motivated are you? Okay, well, I don't know. Okay, here's a little litmus test for you. Ask yourself, do I stay inside my own thoughts? In other words, do you just sit and think about it yourself? Do you rehearse your defeats more than your accomplishments and your victories? Well, how do I know if I'm not driven? Well, a telltale sign is you start comparing yourself to others around you. Life is an adventure. It's got to be enjoyed. It's not an existence that has to be endured and then you die. I'll say it again. Life is an adventure. Enjoy the ride. Because as a believer, knowing you are righteous and pure before the Father, and He has nothing but good things in store for you, He's already got it planned out. You can see life as an adventure now. Don't just exist and then die. Use your past as fuel. Use your past failures and losses as fuel for your drive and your determination. Start getting positive. Make yourself get positive. You may just say it for a little bit, but then you start believing it. Well, I don't know if that's good, Mark. Look at the man that came to Jesus concerning his son. And Jesus said, do you believe? He said, yeah, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. I may have to do a message on that. I think I did that one on that years ago. It just come to mind. I think I titled it, Get Your Butt Out of the Way. I may have to do that. And many people do need to get their butts out of the way. Okay? Mark, how do I get my drive and determination back? You've got to start enjoying your attempts at going where your heart is taking you and your dreams are calling you. Start enjoying your attempts. Look at James Dyson. Look at Thomas Edison. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at Miss Rowling. Look at Steven Spielberg. Look at Jesus Christ. Okay? Allow yourself to start studying others that failed, but now they're successful. Start rehearsing your dreams, not your circumstances. Please. Start rehearsing your dreams, not your circumstances. And please, for God's sake and for yours, for your family's sake, stop comparing yourself to others. Someone is waiting. Someone is watching you. And sadly, they're going to use you as a model for themselves. because they will not know the message I'm teaching right now. Strength is not just succeeding. It's using failures and losses to drive you. If it's not your harvest you planned on, it's your seed you planted. So every day is a holiday. My buddy Rick Opitz, oh my Lord, I miss Rick. First time I met him, I said, Rick, how you doing, man? He said, it's nice to meet you. In my life, every day's a holiday, every night's a party, and every meal's a feast. And it caught me off guard, but over the years, I took on that mentality. Life is an adventure to be enjoyed. I've learned to consider and enjoy harvest, and I've learned to enjoy seed, because every seed produces a harvest above and beyond what I could have ever imagined. So that's it. I held you a few minutes longer today, but I absolutely encourage you. Listen to this as many times as you need to, but start looking at loss as a victory to come, as a seed. Okay? Jesus even told his disciples, he said, I'm going away. All they heard was, I'm going to lose somebody that does miracles. But he said, it's good that I go away, because if I don't go away, you can't become what the Father dreamed of. So a seed has to die. When are you going to let your loss die? When are you going to let that thing that has grieved you so long and frustrated you so long, let it go? There is an art of letting go of something, and it starts by determining where you still want to go. God has never failed you. He can't fail you. Only you can fail yourself. Today, I want to encourage you, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and say that dream never died. It may have dust on it, but I am determined that everything that got in the way is just another attempt. And you may be 5,125 attempts away from the manifestation. If you quit now, you won't see it. If James Dyson were to tell you, he would say it was that one attempt you didn't do that could have made the difference in your life. So I encourage you today, get the victory, not just over your failures, but see the victory in your failures. Anyway, I hope you all got that. Don't forget to go to markshellministries.com. And if you're able to support the ministry, it's a blessing to you. It's a blessing to the ministry. It facilitates what God has called me to do. And I encourage you to begin to just get the word out, not only by your mouth, but show people they can live, and they can live happy, and they can live free. And also, go online if you can. The brand new USB drive, I think there's 52, 53 different series. all online or on one USB flash drive. If you've ever emailed the ministry, you probably got an advertisement, which we rarely send out unless there's a product available. But it has all, I believe it's over 140 or 50 different sermon teachings, and many hours. All of them are available for a donation of $375. Again, that is helping in the ministry. So if you're able to do that, email, let us know, or just go online and you'll see it in the bookstore. But thank you for everything you do. Consider partnering with the ministry, and I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Let's see, yes, 9 o'clock Central. I will be in this time zone. So you all have a blessed day, and I will see you next week.